mustache is already falling off.
Happy Halloween!
Happy Halloween! All right.
I feel like we should say to the people who are listening, not watching, we're in costume right now.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, we
Please
are
continue.
in costume right now. But, but anyway, this is I Scream, You Scream, your weekly scoop of the most chilling histories, mysteries, and true crime. Hello, I am Gina.
And I'm Kathryn.
Every month, we choose a new topic and a new ice cream flavor to go along with it. This month, the topic was vampires. So the last 4 episodes all involve vampires in some way or another, and we accompanied that with some delicious strawberry ice cream. But this time, it's a little bit different, guys. We're going to do something a little different. So every now and then you get a month with a pesky 5th Tuesday, which is really, it should be illegal. And when that happens, when a 5th Tuesday occurs, instead of bringing you our normal episode format, we're going to give you something like a palate cleanser, basically a bonus episode that has a little bit of this, a sprinkling of that, of course, with a deliciously spooky twist. And instead of ice cream, this time we have alcohol. What are we drinking, Kathryn?
So one day I was just trying to decide on what to drink. I was in the mood for a fall cocktail. So I just used whatever was in my fridge and we made a, what are we calling this? Does this have a name? It is apple cider, bourbon, and ginger ale. So delicious. And easy, obviously, to make non-alcoholic if you so choose. Just apple cider and ginger ale is bomb. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, should we cheers? Are we cheers?
Oh, yeah. Cheers. Clink.
Clink.
And if you do happen to be a British person listening to this episode, it's American apple cider, which is basically just unfiltered, so cloudy apple juice mulled with some really tasty autumnal spices.
So, Gina, would you like to explain your costume?
So I am if you're listening, I just put my pipe in my mouth. I am Sherlock Holmes, ready to solve a mystery. And Kathryn, what's your beautiful, adorable costume?
I'm an avocado. I feel like I really phoned this one in. I'm a big fan of the onesie. Like the, I feel like this is like a recent thing over the last several years, like the adult costume onesie.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I feel like I'm just wearing jammies right now.
I used to have
I can't see my seed, but I do have a seed down here.
I used to have a Princess Leia onesie, and the hood had like the buns on it.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, it was nice.
I do have a quick update. I don't know if you saw it in the notes.
I saw something written in all caps, and I don't know what it means.
About electricity.
Yeah.
So, if you tuned in a couple weeks ago, Kathryn was having an existential crisis about electricity and when it was invented and when it was accessible to the greater American public. I have since started reading a book that has nothing to do with the electricity whatsoever, but I highly recommend it, and I'll tell you why I'm bringing it up in a second, but it's called, what's it called? A Haunted History of Invisible Women. True Stories of America's Ghosts. Have you heard of this? It's been out for a few years now. Basically, as a rundown, it just goes through stories of like female ghost tales in America and like how they influence / are influenced by society. I get to first paragraph on page 37. I'm literally going to read it to you because it's the most I felt so vindicated. Okay. Spoiler alert, this woman died. This took place in the 1800s, so she is a ghost now. Her body was found by an electrician who explained that he had been, quote, trimming the exterior lights in the early morning. The Dell was one of only a few electrified edifices in San Diego and one of the first fully electrified resorts, but workers of the time still utilized gas lamp terminology. So this took place, I meant to write down the date, but it was like 1892. What year did Mercy take place?
1890s.
At the time, this big-ass hotel was one of the only fully electrified places, which means surrounding areas did not yet have electricity. So we can surmise that the Browns could potentially have not had electricity.
I believe that.
Me being blown away by the fact that electricity had been invented at this point is reasonable.
Technically invented, not widely usable. She just took her hood off, took a big breath.
I just feel so good about myself because I felt like an idiot. I have to explain to our listeners, I left that recording kind of like, man, people are going to make fun of me for not being intelligent enough to know about electricity. But I thought that was such a fun, like, to bring it back to the whole, like, time frame situation. Like, this was, like, a new thing. This was a new, like, very grand resort that no one had really experienced yet. So, yeah. That was my little aside. We can get into the actual episode now. So let's just jump in. Let's do a vibe check. I have no idea what we're planning on doing for bonus episodes moving forward. Send us an email, icecreamyouscreampod@gmail.com, and let us know what you'd like to hear on bonus episodes. For now, I want to do a vibe check where we've done 4 episodes thus far. We're having a great time with this podcast. So I want to know how you're feeling, Gina. What have been your favorite experiences with this so far?
Ooh, feelings. Hold on, let me take a drink.
Oh my God, okay, me too.
I really love watching you talk about things that you're passionate about.
Aww,
And you are
sweet.
such a good storyteller, which is something I've always known about you. It's one of the many reasons why I love you and you're my best friend. But being able to have the opportunity every week to hear you tell me something new and that you're excited to tell me and to hear your take on it and to kind of almost have an excuse to hear you talk about those things has been my favorite part.
That's so sweet. I'm like, also for context, Gina and I were hanging out before this, not podcast related. So we have already had a couple. So I am getting a little emotional. That actually, I mean, like kind of in that same vein, I think my favorite part has just been, I really felt like we did a very good job of staying in touch and staying like connected, which I still think that. I think that we still have. The fact that you live halfway across the world and we were able to stay in touch for as long as we did, I think is very impressive, and I'm very proud of us for that. But I don't think I knew how much more connected we could be until we started doing this. And like, we talk so much more often than we did. And I didn't think, we already texted every day or most days. So I didn't realize that we could talk so much more. But I think that like having a project to work on together,
Yeah.
I'm having just so much fun with you. The only time I like remember you're so far away is when I'm like thinking of like what ice cream flavor we should do or something. It's like, oh wait, I don't know if she has this brand there, or you know, stuff like that, where I'm like, oh shoot, she's, what are you, like 6,000 miles away? I don't know actually. What
Something
is the
ridiculous.
difference?
I think it's like 4,000.
Like yeah, it's in the thousands. So that's my favorite part. I'm just really enjoying this with you.
I'm really enjoying it too. I'm having so much fun.
And I'm enjoying that other people are enjoying it too. That's been so cool. I think that that's one that we have talked about. I'm going to choose that as our like joint favorite thing, if you will. Like everyone who said they were going to listen and were really excited about it have been really involved in the process. But also we're getting a lot of listeners that we don't know. Like I was not expecting that.
That's the wild part.
Couple people. Yeah. So that's been really fun.
Yeah, if you are one of the people who has like left a nice review or subscribed, or you know, followed us, whatever the verbs are that are on all the different platforms, just know we appreciate you so much and thank you, because we are having the time of our lives, and it's awesome to know that other people are enjoying it as well. So thank you.
So I want to talk about the scary stories to tell in the dark, because I had never seen the movie adaptation. Have you watched that?
Mm-mm.
It is so scary. Did you ever read that book?
No. Like what?
Did you ever hear any stories from it?
Uh-uh.
Oh my God. What? Okay. So Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is this, it's this very like nostalgic anthology of childhood horror stories, and it has urban legends. It's very scary. They're very scary stories to tell in the dark. So this movie adaptation was produced by Guillermo del Toro. We respect him as a filmmaker. So yes, I brought that up because I want to transition into urban legends. We all told them. We all know them. We all have ones that have stuck with us. So the one that I always remembered being so scared of is the one about the dog and the serial killer.
Oh, and the licking of the hand?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That one?
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone knows this story, but I am going to tell it for those who don't. And it's always a little different. So the way I know this story is there's a little kid who's like parents were out of town or like on a date or something like that. So there was a babysitter there, and the babysitter tells him to go to bed, and he doesn't want to go to bed. So he cuffs and puffs and goes upstairs, and he starts getting a little scared, but he's too proud to tell the babysitter that he's afraid of the dark, and he's starting to get a little scared. So eventually the dog comes in his room, and he's hanging his hand off the side of his bed, and the dog starts licking his hand to like comfort him, and eventually lulls him to sleep. The next morning, he wakes up and he goes into the bathroom, and he finds his dog dead and hanging from the like shower rack or whatever, and written in the dog's blood on the mirror, it says, "Psychopaths can lick hands too."
Oh,
That's the way I remember. And I actually think maybe I forgot a part. Like, part of the reason he was scared is like he heard on the news that there was someone that had like escaped from
that's
like
how I
asylum
always
or something like that.
Heard it.
Yeah, I forgot that part. As I was speaking, I was like, I don't remember how we get here.
I had completely forgotten about that. You just unlocked so many slumber party memories.
There's so many like that.
So, okay, this is part urban legend, part fun facts about Gina's childhood. So.
Excellent.
When I was a little kid, I lived in the UK for a bit. And then when I moved back to the States, one of my first assignments at school was they were going to get all the kids. And I was in like third grade at this point. So I think I was about 8 or 9, maybe. They got all of the kids to write a story, and then they would send it off, and like you would illustrate it, and they would send it off and get it published into an actual hardbound thing. So it'd be like a keepsake kind of thing. I remembered that when I lived in England, I had heard my schoolmates telling stories, this one specific scary story about a doll. And it went like this. Once upon a time, there was a family, a mom, a dad, a son, and a daughter. And when the daughter she was a kid, she was, younger than 10 years old, probably around the same age I was at the time. All she wanted was a life-size doll that looked just like her. And one Christmas, under the tree, there was a box that was exactly her height. And so when Christmas morning came, she thought she knew what it was. She ran downstairs, she opened the present, and boom, it was a life-size doll that looked just like her. And she started to play with this thing and take it everywhere with her. Weeks passed, and then one night, the doll opened its eyes. And I can't remember if there was like an inciting incident to this, but the doll goes downstairs while the little girl is sleeping and gets a knife out of the kitchen, goes to the little girl's room and stabs her to death, then goes to the parents' room, stabs them to death, goes to the brother's room and stabs him to death. And then the next day when the police came to see, because I don't know, the police came and all they saw was a little life-size doll laying in the corner with her eyes staring off into space. And so I stole that story and I plagiarized it. And I this
is the most Gina story I've ever heard in my life. And therefore
I stole it. And I illustrated it because part of it was that you had to draw the story you were writing. That. And so I was like with crayon, like blood everywhere, dead bodies.
Gina!
And so I turned
Did your parents get a letter?
they got a
In the school?
call. They got a meeting in the office. They got a call that was like, "Hey, can you come in? We're a little bit concerned about Gina.
So worried for your freaking
she's
child.
turned in some material that's like a little bit disturbing." So they get in and like,
Oh my
they
god.
show my parents the little the fucked up booklet of murder that I've made.
The fucking book.
And luckily, like, well, one, the teacher was like, this doesn't sound like Gina. Like, I don't think she did this on her own.
Yeah.
And my parents remembered me echoing this story to them when we lived in England. And so they were like, yeah, no, she stole that shit. Like, she's not,
Oh my God.
about to, commit mass murder or anything. And it's a story that my mom will tell every now and then of.
That's one that a parent would tell.
It's just like
That's
shit that kids do.
That's like very much a story that describes like your general vibe as like child Gina based on what I've
I'm
heard.
not a thief. Let me be clear about that. I don't still plagiarize things.
This is very much a child Gina story.
An unrefined Gina. A Gina in the rough. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So now we have a special little treat for you guys. We found some ghost stories that we want to tell you in the spirit of Halloween. And I think Kathryn is going to go ahead and kick us off here with a couple tantalizing tales from her very own dad.
So this one, well, yeah, both of them were sent by my father. So real quick, this man has been sitting on 2 pristine ghost stories for the last 30 years, and he's never told me either of these stories. I'm just going to jump in because he wrote these beautifully. I'm very excited. It was early winter of 1974 or 1975. Odd how memories work. People can sometimes recall the minute details of an event vividly, but not something so obvious as the year it took place. This has no effect on the story, however, which took place while we were in high school. It was a cold, windy weekend evening, so we picked up some beer and decided to drive down the lakefront to see if the winter waves were crashing on the beaches. I'm also going to pause here and point out that my father is confessing to underage drinking. Anyway. Carrie was driving. I was riding shotgun. Fred and Dale, who will hereafter be referred to as the voices from the back seat, were obviously sitting in the back seat. There's a main road near Lake Michigan in downtown Milwaukee that turns into a bridge and basically loops around itself to allow you to get down to the road underneath it so that you can drive next to the lake. It was when we were driving across the bridge that I first saw her, walking west from the lake. A chill ran down my spine so hard that it made my shoulders and head twitch. At the same time, Carrie shouted, "Jesus, it's a witch!" I just stared. Beneath thin eyebrows were eyes deep and black, staring straight forward. Bluish gray skin covered an angular face with high cheekbones and gaunt features. She walked straight ahead, never turning her head, as if staring toward something in the distance. The pace was not slow, but not fast. Think like a wedding march, kind of at time and a half speed. She was dressed in a calf-length fur coat and a beret, kind of like something Betty Davis or Joan Crawford would wear in the 30s or 40s. Her hands were in her pockets, and below the hem of the coat you could see the skin color of her legs, which was the same as her face, and she was wearing high-heeled shoes that matched the era of her coat and hat. The voices from the back seat shouted out questions. What? Where? What are you talking about? I asked if they saw what Carrie and I had seen, and they said no. So Carrie quickly turned the car around, as there was no traffic behind us or coming toward us. Safety first. As our eyes fell upon the bridge, she was not there. There had not been enough time for her to get over the bridge onto the other street or back to the main road, and there weren't any cars in sight that could have come to pick her up. As we rolled up to the stoplight, we looked in all directions that she could have gone. No people, no cars, nothing. She had just vanished. Shit, do you guys think that she jumped off the bridge? I asked. Carrie made another U-turn and drove as fast as possible through the loop to get to the road below. The voices from the back seat were muttering doubts about what we saw, to which Gary promptly told them, "Fuck off, we saw her." Beneath the bridge, as Carrie stopped and turned on the flashers, one of the voices from the back seat and I jumped out and searched beneath the bridge for the body. Nothing. Nobody was there. We got back into the car, and the voices from the back seat had a few more snide remarks to make about what we said we had seen. Carrie looked at me and asked if I had really also seen her, to which I replied yes. Then I saw him shiver, just the same as I had a few moments earlier, and just said, "Let's get out of here." The next few days, we all listened a little more closely to the news on television and radio, as well as checked the newspaper about any mysterious happenings that night. Nothing. To this day, 50 years later, whether day or night, when I turn onto that road, my eyes scan the bridge and plaza for her, and I wonder, who was she and where could she have gone?
Ooh.
Spooky.
That is so spooky.
So this is interesting because, well, for many reasons, I love a good ghost story. But so you and I were just talking about the Pfister because I went there for my birthday, and where this story took place is not too far from there. And we'll get into this in a later episode. We'll do something on haunted hotels, and because we definitely want to talk about the Pfister. It's a very famously haunted place here in Milwaukee. But the era in which he was describing this woman kind of matches a lot of the stories I've heard about the Pfister, and it's only like 3 blocks away. And she would have this alleged witch slash ghost slash whatever she was walking in that direction. So this is all just me making up stories in my own head, but I do kind of love the idea that she may have been a ghost associated with the Pfister.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, because it's in that's a very old area of town. And it, I mean, like I said, it's only like 3 or 4 blocks, and she was heading in that direction.
I would love to know if anyone else has ever seen her.
That's what, so I Googled it briefly. I didn't find anything, but yeah.
Yeah.
I liked the story. I'm annoyed that I never heard this story before.
I was just thinking that, like, damn, he really sat on this because that's what he remembers it vividly. The amount of detail in that for how long ago it was is impressive. So, Father, like, you don't have to explain yourself. It's fine. What's done is done. But I hope you've learned a lesson. I don't know what that is, but for the love of God, share your stories, people. For the love of God, man.
but truly, so that is actually a good note. Like, we love hearing people's stories. So if you have any, we do have an email that you can send your story to iscreamyouscreampod@gmail.com. This is hopefully not the only time that we can read other people's stories. We would love to be able to read more. So if you have something to share, please let us know. We would love to read them on here.
100%. Yes, please. Love a good ghost story. Even though I'm a scaredy cat, I'm better at reading things than I am watching things.
Yeah, definitely. And just like, you can also just like tell it to us. You don't have to like write it. If you're not a writer and that's, giving you pause, feel free to just let us know, and we can share your story ourselves too.
Yeah. Just give us a call anytime. Yeah. Day or night, but maybe not night.
Who are you going to call?
Gina and Kathryn.
Okay.
Love it. Okay, I have a spooky, scary story for you too.
Okay.
I did find it on Reddit. It's not someone that I personally know.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So we love a Reddit ghost story.
All right. So this comes from Reddit user Gemini Love CA. I'm assuming it's California. No judgment about being a Gemini. All right. I know it sounds like something straight out of a movie, but it's 100% what happened to me about 24 years ago. When I was still relatively newly married, my then husband and I moved into a townhouse-style apartment. The 2 floors of our apartment were on the 2nd and 3rd floors of the building, and the management office and mailbox was almost directly below us on the ground level. Important for later. The woman who managed the building was older, didn't care for the property well, and usually spent most days chain-smoking Camel non-filters in her office, and being a hateful old racist.
Oh.
I love the way this is written as a side note.
I I'm trying not to interrupt you. You know how I get when I get excited. But I was thinking, I'm like so invested in this already.
Imagine renting a place from Juno, the social worker from Beetlejuice, but less helpful. She really resented that we had the townhouse, claiming that we lied about my being pregnant when we moved in because she didn't want to rent that unit to people with kids. She also made a few disparaging remarks about my husband due to his race. She was a real peach, truly. Again, love the writing here.
Yeah. Yeah, this is great.
So after kiddo was born, I was a stay-at-home mom, just busy keeping the house clean and the baby occupied without a car or local mom friends. After lunch, the kiddo needed a bath. Anyone who's fed a 9-month-old baby food knows the mess that can happen. So I went upstairs and ran the tub. Soon, I had the baby sitting happily, splashing in one of those suction cup bath seats. Important to note, it's the middle of the winter and we had no heat. An issue I had been fighting Juno, the landlord, about for a while, among other maintenance issues like my arcing ceiling fan or the garbage disposal that was held on with duct tape and leaked. We basically had to keep a space heater or two in every room to keep the chill off. I had taken one of the space heaters in the bathroom to keep the bathroom warm enough for bath time and had it sitting out of reach and splashing distance on top of the bathroom counter. I was standing in the bathtub, getting ready to lift the baby out when all of a sudden, the space heater started rocking back and forth when it had not been rocking before. I had this horrible feeling of dread as I looked at the heater, and I just reacted because I knew I couldn't get both of us out of the tub in time. I reached down to grab the baby seat, ending up pulling it up off of the tub and dropping the baby over the side of the tub to the bathroom floor just as the heater got to the end of the cord. It thumped into the shower door, bounced off the edge of the tub, and landed on its side on the floor a couple of inches away where it shut off. I had auto shut off in case it got tipped over. When I looked over to the corner of the bathroom, that part of the room just seems to get darker, like it was filling up with shadows. There was no smoke, no change in lighting, no windows, so no sun going behind a cloud, etc. It was just darker. I also started to smell cigarette smoke, Camel non-filters, which I knew the smell of well from being in Juno's office all the time to get things fixed. The smell was so thick it made me cough and my chest ached, but I couldn't see any smoke and haze. And I felt this overwhelming sensation of hatred and malice, like somebody was standing there giving me a death glare. I grabbed the baby and a towel and ran downstairs. I was so freaked out I couldn't bring myself to go back up there, so I used some diapers from the diaper bag and kept the baby wrapped up in a towel and cuddled up to stay warm. I stayed down there the entire rest of the day until my husband got home. Every so often, I'd look up at the stairs at the bathroom, but I didn't want to take the baby up there, and I was afraid to leave him alone downstairs. When he asked me why the baby wasn't dressed, I told him about the heater and the smoke in the bathroom, and he went up to check, figuring it was yet another maintenance issue. There were no electrical issues, no damage to the outlet, no smoke, no cigarette smell. He put the heater back on the counter and turned it on, watched it for a few minutes, and it didn't rock. So it didn't rock itself off the counter earlier. He laughed it off, but later that day, we heard Juno's adult son downstairs near the mailboxes, yelling his head off at people. And that's when we found out she'd had a massive heart attack in her office earlier that day and had been found dead in her chair with a Camel non-filtered still in her hand.
Whoa. Ooh, that gave me goosebumps.
The end. Yeah, fucking creepy, huh?
What? That's the end?
That's the end. Yeah.
Ooh.
That one scared
creepy.
me. Yeah, it was creepy. Yeah.
When timing is weird like that, they could not have known.
Mm-hmm. There's no way.
That, you know what I mean? Yeah.
And the fact that it was a Camel non-filtered, because she knew that smell.
Yes. It's so funny because I know that smell. I had a friend in high school that smoked Camel non-filters, and I remember having a very distinct cigarette smell.
Oof.
Like you can smell the difference. Like I could smell that story. Like I knew what she was talking about. Why was the son yelling? Who was he yelling at?
Because I think he found her body.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I'm
Like
not
I thought it
100%
was,
positive,
yeah.
but
No,
that's
that
how
makes
I took it.
sense. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Wow. All right. I've got one more from my father. Okay. We hunt on public land in Marinette County here in Wisconsin. If you look at it from a generational view, we can say we've hunted in the town of Athelstane since 1947, when my father first started hunting in the area. We hunt off logging roads that crisscross the county land. Many are now numbered forest roads. Though there are hundreds of thousands of acres of county land, it seems most hunters hunt in the same area year after year. Due to the large area, it's very rare to come into contact with another hunter in the woods while you're actively hunting. However, you will see other hunters on the roads as you drive in or out, as they all tend to park in the same place every year. Or you may see them walking back to the truck for lunch or at the end of the day. You may not know their names, but you recognize the faces, clothing, vehicles, and gear of people who hunt there regularly. They could be referred to as, quote, the guy with the red pickup truck, or, quote, the guy that walks with a limp, or the kid, even though he or she is in their 40s. There's usually a nod or wave of recognition, on occasion, some short conversation. It is on one of these logging roads that I had not one but two encounters with a gentleman nobody else seemed to have noticed. It was 1984. I had just shot at a buck that ran up from behind, saw me, and zigzagged, so I fired again. I had broken one rule of deer hunting, that of shooting at a running deer. I was not going to break another by looking for him without waiting a reasonable amount of time to get to him. Too often, hunters chase after a wounded deer too soon, and it pushes the deer deeper into the woods, never to be seen or heard from again. It felt like an eternity while I was waiting to go after him, but it was probably more like 20 minutes. I walked to where the deer was, and I found blood in the snow and tracked him perhaps only 30 yards when I saw him near a small creek in a low area below my stand. Following the Native American tradition of showing respect to the animal's spirit and gratitude for the sustenance, I cut some hair off the deer's hind legs and buried it beneath the soil. I had finished the task and was preparing to field dress him when I heard a voice from behind me say, "I was wondering when you were coming to get him." I turned around to see an elderly man sitting on the ground beneath a large pine tree. He was dressed in simple rubber boots, heavy wool pants, and a jacket, and a fluorescent orange vest and hat that's required to be worn during the gun deer season. I apologized and explained that I had not seen him there and dragged the deer out of the field of fire to field dress him. While doing so, I could understand how I had missed him and was upset that I had done so. The tree he was sitting under is one I often use as a landmark. It was directly in front of me, perhaps 50 yards from where I had been when I shot the deer. How did I miss him while I was tracking the deer? Granted, I was focused on the trail, but when tracking, you regularly sweep the area with your eyes for movement. I did not recognize him as being a member of any of the groups that we see hunt in the area. And when had he arrived? Before me? There were no other vehicles parked in the area when we drove in. After me? The only way he could have gotten to that spot without me seeing him was by taking a very long walk through some rough terrain. Wanting to get out of the area so as not to disturb his hunt any further, I did a quick job of field dressing, thinking I could finish up later back of the truck. As I started to drag the deer away, I looked in his direction to wave goodbye, and he was gone. When I told the story back of the truck before we left the woods for the morning, nobody else in our party had seen him. As we drove out of the woods on the logging road, past the parking spot of another group of hunters, we stopped to chat. I asked that they pass on my apologies for disturbing the hunt of, quote, the old guy in your group. They had no idea who I was talking about, nor had they seen anyone else that morning. Considering where they had parked, and how we all got to our stands, and where the elderly gentleman was, the only way that he could have gotten to where he was without anyone else seeing him would have been to walk several miles through some very rough terrain in the dark. And also, this is an aside from me. Based on when deer hunting season is, it likely would have been snowing as well. Or like snowy or like very cold and like difficult to get through. Before I finish this story, on the intersection of Old County Road A and Benson Lake Road in Marinette County, near where this story takes place, you can see the remains of the foundation of a house. In 2007, the Amberg Historical Society put up a stone marker paying tribute to the Phillipsburg settlement that once stood there in the 1920s. It was named for the Phillips family that tried to establish a community there. This was one of several small settlements that sprouted up in the early 20th century after timber companies had logged the original pine growth. During the Great Depression, these small settlements disappeared due to action taken by Marinette County, the result of the severe economic situations of the day. The land became part of today's county forests. Back to my story. It was sometime in the 90s, well over a dozen years since that buck dropped in front of the old-timer that disappeared in the same manner he arrived. And well after Kathryn was born, and I could have told her this story, but that's an aside. The morning hunt was over, and I was in the logging road, walking back to where the truck was parked. Coming toward me was another hunter. He was dressed in the simple rubber boots, heavy wool pants and a jacket, and a fluorescent orange vest and hat required to be worn during the gun deer season. We stopped and chatted about what we had seen and heard that morning. He said that he had been hunting in these woods all his life, that he was born in a house on the corner of Old County Road A and Benson Lake Road. As we said our goodbyes and wished each other luck, I told him my name was Ken, and we parted ways. I trudged up the hill, and it suddenly dawned on me. Could this have been the same guy from, 15 years ago? I turned around to see if he was still there, but he was gone. When I got back to the truck, once again, nobody else had seen him the entire day. Did I mention that he told me that his last name was Phillips?
That's such a good ending.
Perhaps of the Phillipsburg settlement? Yeah, I love the way he ended that.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah. So my dad went hunting with a freaking ghost, apparently.
I love the idea of this ghost just living his best life.
Just chilling.
Just
chilling
out
in
there.
the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, one thing that's notable that also kind of contributes to the spookiness, I guess, if you will, like, a hunter's eye is a real thing. My mom has talked about this my entire life. She will move a candle 3 inches on the mantelpiece, and my dad, that's like the first thing he noticed when he walks in the room. Hunters like notice things that the average person doesn't. But he kind of mentions that he was scanning the woods. The things that people wear in hunting season, it's for safety. It's so other hunters can see you and like nothing happens. There's no accidents or anything. So based on where this guy was, there's literally no way that he wouldn't have seen him, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so, and he was just lounging against a tree? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Maybe now that we're talking about it, maybe we can summon him.
I would love to.
I hope so.
I have another one for us. So this is from Reddit user Ellen_Smith82. I have had paranormal activity my whole life. Almost none of those have ever been unnerving, so I'll tell you my strangest one. When I was 10, I lived in Southwest Texas. It got so hot in summer there that one day we literally fried an egg on the sidewalk. On this particular summer day, my mom had taken me and my friend to the library to check out and read some books. We had finished our reading and picked our books, and so we decided to play around with the elevator. There were only 2 floors to the library, and one of us would go into the elevator, and as soon as the doors closed, the other would race down or up the stairs and try to beat the elevator. I was waiting for the elevator on the 2nd floor, and as it dinged, my friend took off. But as I stood there, the doors opened and I got a huge shock. The elevator was full of about 8 or 9 people, but they were all looking up at the numbers inside it, staring unblinkingly like Zen cows.
What?
I love that simile. Like Zen
Yeah,
cows.
like I get what they're saying, but that
it.
was very like jarring. Like
very
that was
funny.
not what I was expecting to say, but I get it. I get what they're saying.
There was a man at the front wearing a black 3-piece suit, gloves, a fedora, and a cane. Keep in mind, this was in Texas during 110-degree Fahrenheit heat. He was gaunt with a white mustache and slightly resembled the guy in Needful Things. He smiled wide when he saw me and said in a voice that I'll never forget, "There's room for one more."
No, there's not.
I was freaked. No thanks, I replied. The elevator doors closed as the man sort of tilted his hat. As I stood there in shock, my friend came back up the stairs, slightly winded. "Hey, where were you?" he asked me. I explained to him I couldn't use the elevator because it was packed full. "There was nobody on the elevator," he said. I look back on this often, and the question, what if I'd gotten on it, haunts me. I have absolutely no clue what would have happened if I'd gotten on, and it's sort of frightening for sure. I know how all of it sounds, but I swear to the higher power, this really happened. And that's the story.
I have so many thoughts. I don't love elevators, not because I'm afraid of getting trapped in them. Like, I'm literally afraid of what this person is describing. Like, what if she had gone on? Like, I'm always scared that, like, the elevator is just not going to stop. Like, and this is a very gentle fear. I'm not, like, afraid of elevators, but that is an anxiety I have about them. Yeah, I don't love a liminal space.
Yeah.
I don't like that feeling.
Yeah.
They had the something's not right feeling.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. And then the
That's
friend
the thing.
coming in with there was no one on there. I saw the elevator go up, and there's only 2 floors in this library. So like most people wouldn't even take the elevator.
I forgot.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I
Let
totally
alone
forgot
8
that's
or
such a
9
huge
people
part of it.
taking the elevator. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. That's so much freakier.
Yeah, it's scary. It's so freaky. Yeah. But I think that about wraps up our first bonus episode and our first month of having a podcast together. So congratulations, Kathryn. We've made it through a month.
Yeah, so fun. Thank you all for joining us.
Yeah.
This is fun. We have more coming. Are we sharing?
I think we should. I think we should say what our next flavor is.
Let's prepare people. We would love for you all to join in the ice cream eating when you listen with us if you're not busy doing other things. Do you want to do the honors of sharing what it's going to be, Sherlock?
So starting next Tuesday, our new flavor of the month will be Froggers, which if you're not familiar with the term, because it is relatively new and I didn't know it until we did this, Froggers refers to when someone is living in your house without your knowledge or consent, which is very, very freaky, hiding in the walls vibes. And to go along with it, we're going to be eating Fish Food by Ben & Jerry's. Because
hashtag not sponsored, but wanna be.
Yes, very much so.
Why ever did you choose that flavor, Gina?
Okay, hear me out.
I love this. This is all Gina. She did a great job with this one.
Frogs are basically fish with legs. And Fish Food, the ice cream, has little chocolate bits in it, much in the same way that someone might hide in your house because there's chocolate bits hiding in the ice cream.
Yes, please join us. Thank you for joining us thus far.
Yeah.
If you have, please come back for more. This was, again, like we don't know what we're going to be doing for our bonus episodes moving forward. Maybe some months we're excited enough about a topic we just want to have a 5th one, but we have no structure for these bonus ones. So don't worry, we'll be back to business as usual next week. So we would love to have you.
And like Kathryn said earlier, if you do have a topic that you want to hear us talk about that maybe couldn't stretch over 4 episodes, but that would make sense in just one, let us know and maybe we'll do it for an upcoming bonus episode. And yeah, until next time, little spoons, keep it cool.
Keep it creepy.